Welcome back to another piano lesson with Warren. My name is Warren McPherson. Today, we're going to take a look at seventh chords and how you can easily, as a beginner, build a seventh chord on any note of the piano. Any of the seventh chords, because we have major seventh, minor seventh, dominant seventh, diminished seventh, augmented seventh, minor, major seventh. Those are sort of like the six most popular type of seventh chord. We have the diminished seventh as well, but that one is a lot easier to formulate. But the six that I just mentioned, you're probably thinking, as a beginner, how do I wrap my head around these chords? How can I easily build these chords? And so today I'm going to show you some formulas for each of these chords. Because really, a seventh chord is just a combination of two triads. So if you already know all your triads, your major chord, minor chord, diminished chord, augmented chord, the basic triads. If you're familiar with those and you're familiar with intervals, then you can build a seventh chord anywhere on the keyboard super quickly. And those are the formulas I'm going to explain to you in this tutorial. So stay tuned. Welcome back. And just before we jump into it, if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet and the notification bell, I would highly recommend you do so, because this is a channel where we talk about gospel piano, gospel music, and how to play by ear. We put out tutorials every week. So if you want to stay up to date on what's going on, the latest theory, ear training, song breakdown, everything, then you want to stay subscribed. All right, let's jump into it. So seventh chords, what are seventh chords? Now, seventh chords are four-note chords on the piano. If you're a beginner, you're probably more familiar with what we call triads, which are three-note chords. Major chord, a minor chord, a diminished chord, or an augmented chord. Those are the basic triads. And when we start to add a fourth note to that chord, we get the different types of seventh. Major seventh, minor seventh, minor major seventh, augmented seventh, dominant seventh, minor seventh flat five, or also known as the half diminished. So let's talk about those chords and how are they made up, so you can quickly play these chords if you need to, and also how you can easily just split them between the hands. So as I mentioned in the introduction, seventh chords are really a combination of two triads. Let's start with the first one, the major seventh triad. So if you come over here with the left hand, we're going to use a C, for example, and you play a C major chord, and then you play in the right hand a minor triad that is a third away from the triad in the right hand, then you get a major seventh chord. So over here I have C major, over here I have E minor. But look at the distance between the root of each chord. They're a major third apart, right? So even though I'm playing it up here, it's still a major third, still considered a major third, a tenth, major third. It's the same note, so we're not going to get too crazy into compound intervals when we go beyond an octave. So we're just going to still refer to it as a third, particularly a major third. So that's why I said it's important for beginners to know their intervals, the difference between a major third and a minor third, because that's the formula we're going to use today. So a major chord in the left hand, a minor chord in the right hand that is separated by a major third of that note in the root. The root note of the left hand chord, a major third up, and by up I mean going from left to right. We play a minor chord, and we get a major seventh chord. So the easy formula for remembering major seventh is that a major chord in the left hand, a minor chord in the right hand separated by a major third interval, and we get a major seventh triad. Let's try that somewhere else. Let's go to the G. So we're going to play G major. And then what is a third up from G? 1, 2, 3, right? So we know it's B. And that right hand chord should be a minor. So we come up here and play a minor chord, and we get G major seventh. Let's try one more. A. Play an A major. Right? then we need to play a minor chord in the right hand that is a third away from the root of the left hand chord. 1, 2, 3. Not 1, 2, 3. That gives us a minor third, right? We need a major third. And if you're completely new to intervals, the difference between a major third and a minor third is the amount of half steps in between. So if we're in A and we count 1, 2, 3. Now, just like counting footsteps, we step, then we count. So we cannot say 1. We're counting distance, not notes. So when we're counting distance, we step, then we count 1. So from A, 1, 2, 3. Distance of 3 half steps gives us a minor third. A distance of 4 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, gives us a major third. So that's just something to quickly note if you're not so clear on what constitutes a minor third and a major third. It's the distance of half steps in between the interval. So we take A, we play a major chord, we go up a major third, we play a minor triad, and now we get A major 7. And so oftentimes when you're playing a song, you don't have to play the entire chord in one hand. Oftentimes when I'm playing, I split the chords between the hands. And so that's a nice thing for beginners to start exploring that 2-hand chord while giving you that 7th sound. So that's the formula for major 7th chord. Let's jump to the other 7th chord. We're going to look at the minor 7th. Now, the rule or the formula for the minor 7th states that you play a minor chord in the left hand. So whatever the chord you're trying to play, so in this case, we're going to try to play a C minor 7th chord. So we need to build a minor chord in the left hand on C. We have C minor. The rule now states that we need to play a major chord. So it's like the opposite of the major 7th chord. Now we need to play a major chord in the right hand that is separated by a minor third from the root chord. So we have the C minor up here. What is a minor third away from C? 1, right? Or we can quickly check the number of half steps. So we know, okay, these 2 notes are a minor third away. So we need to build a major chord starting on that E flat. And we get a C minor 7. So it's a combination of a C minor and an E flat major gives us the C minor 7th chord, right? Now, another thing you can quickly take note of is that you notice that right-hand chord that we're building always starts on the middle note of that left-hand chord. So even if we quickly jump back to the major 7, it's the same thing. It's that middle note that we're building the new chord, the 2nd chord on. For the minor, same thing, that middle note. So that's another clue that you can look at to ensure that your interval distance is correct. So the formula for minor 7th chord is minor chord in the left hand, then find a chord that is a minor third away or a chord that's built on the middle note of that minor chord in the left hand, and we're going to make it a major chord. Minor over here, major over here, and you get a minor 7th chord. Let's jump on another one. We're going to take a look at the dominant 7th chord, right? How are dominant 7th chords put together? It's the same concept. We're going to be combining 2 triads. So we're going to, in the left hand, play a major triad, right? Then in the right hand, we're going to play a diminished triad. And it's still going to be built on that middle note or the distance of a major third. So if we come up here, E, we're going to build E diminished. And we get C7 or C dominant 7. So you realize that if you're playing with a bass player and you're vibing on a C7, oftentimes we'll just come up and play the diminished portion of the chord. So then we have because we're thinking C7, bassman has a C. So the formula for dominant 7th chord is major chord in the left hand, a diminished chord in the right hand that is separated by a major third, or built on that middle note of the left hand chord. The next chord we're going to take a look at is the minor major 7. Now this chord is not used often in popular music, but it is used extensively in jazz, minor major 7th chord. So it's a good chord for us to have in the vocabulary and know how to build it. So when you see it on a score or a lead sheet, you know how to play that chord. So because the chord starts minor major 7th, the first half of the chord needs to be minor. So in the left hand, we're going to build a minor triad. And then we're going to come up, find that middle note or the distance of a minor third. And we're going to build an augmented triad. So E flat augmented, right? Remember that an augmented triad is just simply taking a major triad and raising the 5th degree of that chord, and we get an augmented triad. And we get this beautiful sound called the minor major 7. So that's the minor major 7 triad. And so the formula for that is a minor triad in the left hand, an augmented triad in the right hand, and both chords need to be separated by the distance of a minor third. Going down the line, let's take a look at the half diminished 7, popularly known as the minor 7 flat 5. Now that chord the way it is built is described in the name. Minor 7, flat the 5th. But let's talk about it based on which two triads are combined to give you that chord. So if we take a diminished chord in the left hand, and we're going to do the same thing, we're going to go up a minor third, or built on the middle note, and we're going to play a minor triad in that right hand. And we get a minor major 7. We get a minor 7 flat 5, or half diminished. In the classical world, it is popularly known as half diminished. In the jazz world, they just refer to it as the minor 7 flat 5. And rightfully so. If we take a minor 7 chord, and we flat the 5th degree of this chord, which is this note, we're going to lower it by a half step. Then we get the minor 7 flat 5. But the two triads combined to build this chord is a diminished chord in the left hand and a minor chord in the right hand, and both chords needs to be separated by a minor third. Now I know all of these different formulas might be a lot to remember at once, and so I've put together a PDF for you demonstrating and explaining each of these, so you can download this PDF for free. The link to the PDF is in the description of this video. Click on it. You can download this PDF, so you can always have it as a reference to quickly look on. After a while, by practicing this, and yes, this is something you should just practice on random notes over the keyboard. That's how these formulas going to eventually stay in the long-term memory. So you got to practice this. But for now, the PDF will come in handy as a quick reference, so you don't always have to jump back to the video to see what I was talking about. So click the link in the description, download this PDF for free. All right, so now we're going to take a look at a strange chord that is not used so frequent. And that is called the augmented major 7th chord. We have two types of 7th chord built on the augmented triad, and that is the augmented 7th chord and the augmented major 7. Now I'm going to talk about both, but let's jump to the augmented major 7th chord first, which is the least used chord. The reason why I want to start with that chord first is because it is also built on two major triads. Right? And it's a chord that you may come across at some point in your life. It definitely has a strange sound. Sounds like this. You know? Augmented major 7. right? Now, if we take an augmented triad in this left hand, and we're going to go up a major third, and we're going to play a major triad in that hand, and we get that infamous augmented major seventh chord. Definitely give you that sort of atonal, beboppy type sound, right? Augmented triad over here, then a major triad over here. Both chords are separated by a major third, and that gives you the augmented 7 triad. Now, if you take this same triad and you just lower the 5th degree, we get the augmented 7th chord, which is the most commonly used types of augmented chord. We use this all the time. We call it a 7♯5 chord, right? Or just the augmented 7. Now, this chord is a little bit different than the others because it's not really a combination of 2 basic triads. Because if we take an augmented triad here, then we take this triad right here, that's not really a triad, right? It's not a suspension, it's not an augmented, it's not major, it's not minor. It's almost just like what we'd refer to as a cluster, right? You could call it a major chord, flat 5, but no, not really. You know, it's not really a triad, and that's why I saved this one for last, because it doesn't really fit nicely into the formula we've been talking about before. You know, augmented here, and this cluster over here. So that's why I wanted to start with the augmented major 7 first, so you can see the 2 clear triads, augmented major triad, and then to easily get to now that augmented dominant 7th, or augmented 7th rather, we just lower the 5th degree. Because if we stack 2 augmented chords, augmented, it's just literally the same chord, right? Inverted. See, we invert the C augmented, we get E augmented. So that's why we can't stack 2 augmented. If we play a diminished, then that gets us into other territory, right? If we play a minor, it even gets more strange. So the augmented 7 chord isn't really a combination of 2 triads. So it's easy to get to that triad by just playing an augmented here, a major triad here, then lower the 5. Right? So that's it. Those are the types of 7th chords. And you know, before I forgot, the last 7th chord that I haven't talked about is what we call the fully diminished 7th chord. And the reason why I haven't talked about that one, because it's actually the easier 7th chord to build, because it's symmetric in the sense that it's built on all minor thirds. So if I go minor third, minor third, minor third, you get the augmented 7th chord. Symmetric all around because the distance between all the notes are minor thirds. Right? And there are only 3 augmented 7th chords, if you're not familiar with that. C augmented, C sharp or D flat augmented, and D augmented. Because once we go up to E flat augmented 7th chord. Did I'm saying augmented? I mean diminished 7th chord. So C diminished 7, C sharp diminished 7, and D diminished 7. If we go up to E flat diminished 7, then we're just playing an inversion of C diminished 7. Look, you notice it's the exact same notes? Now if I go up to E diminished 7, I'm just playing an inversion of this D flat augmented 7. So once you get to D, 1, 2, 3, once you go beyond that, all other chords played, all other diminished 7th chords are going to be based on an inversion of one of those 3. So that's why I didn't think it makes sense to create a formula, but if you do, it's just a combination of 2 stacked diminished chord. Diminish, diminish. Gives you a fully diminished 7th chord. All right, so that's what I have for you, just a little formula. An interesting way for you guys to think about 7th chord, especially for beginners, just realizing that they are a combination of 2 chords that you're already familiar with. And once you go beyond 7th into 9th, 11th, 13th, and all of those altered chords, the concept still applies. Those chords can be broken down into two other basic chords that you're familiar with. It's on this concept that you'll probably hear the more advanced theory when they say upper structure triad. It is kind of based on this concept that these chords are built by just stacking triads on top of each other. All right, so again, the PDF outlining everything I talked about in this video is available for download for free. The link is in the description of the video, so jump in there and you can download that. And lastly, before we go, a lot of people have asked me in the past, they say, Warren, I love your channel, I love your videos. Is there a way I can support what you're doing? And so we've put together a way for you guys to support the channel through the form of donations. You can donate any amount you like to the channel. You know, that helps us to hire video editors, graphic designers, beat makers, everything we need to keep the channel functioning, providing the best tutorials on YouTube for you guys. That's where this donation would go. So even though we have a membership program for people who want to take their playing to the next level, I know a lot of the viewers aren't necessarily gospel pianists or even pianists at all. I've had people reach out to me who are bassists, drummers, violinists, because they find the theoretical information over here valuable. And a lot of those folks have asked, is there a way to support the channel outside of the membership? So this is a way, if you're watching and you'd like to contribute monetarily to the channel, you can pop over here and donate to the channel. The link is in the description, and this is not a subscription, it's just a one-time donation. And like I say, if you want to donate $1, $10, $100, any amount you can afford, we would obviously appreciate that as we continue to provide the best content for you. So the link to that donation is in the description below. All right, so until then, keep listening, keep singing, keep practicing, because this is how you continue to grow as a musician. Bye for now. See you next week.